They turned out to be completely unreliable assholes.
All right, good morning, Tim, and it is the morning.
It sure is.
And we're outside. It's actually a very nice day here in LA.
Yeah, we're in the shadow of the lovely Griffith Observatory.
And 2 nights ago, Tim and I went to the Mann's Chinese Theater to go see Insidious: The Last Key, a.k.a. Insidious 4.
A.k.a. the last Insidious movie I think I'll ever watch.
What, you didn't like it?
We'll get into it.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. But should we start off with something that has scared us?
Sure.
What do you got anything?
I do. I was thinking about this. Basements scare me.
Was there a time when...
Yeah, I think this primarily comes from the movie Ghoulies. I don't know. I don't even remember the movie well enough to know like what the scenes were. But I think there's a scene early on where the kid has like a bouncy ball and it bounces down the stairs into a creepy basement. And my house growing up had a fairly creepy basement as well. So I had this whole thing of like when I was down there, the lights had to be on. And in order to leave, you had to turn the lights off because the light switch was at the bottom of the stairs. So I had this whole like ritual where I would, I'd stand at the bottom of the stairs but face the basement. So my back is to the stairs. I'd hit the light switch and then run up the stairs real quick and then turn back around to make sure nothing had followed me up.
Yeah. What was it that would have been following you in your imagination?
Who knows?
That's the scary thing.
A ghoulie, I guess. I don't know.
That just reminds me of, the classic, like, Home Alone.
Yeah.
Just, you gotta face your fears. I was trying to think of something that's more from recent or from my adult life, but I still haven't gotten there yet. Okay. Because I feel like, I don't know, just there are these seminal things that scared us so much when you're a kid in that place. But similar to my last ones, I remember this is so funny because like I love horror now and like haunted houses and stuff, but I just remember when I was a kid and going on this like really shitty haunted house at the local fair, the Marin County Fair, that was just like a sort of single train, like it would just do a small loop through like a little tiny area. But at the way end of it, or was it the way beginning of it, there was just something that just like popped out. It wasn't even an actual person, but just some like monster. I'm sure terrible looking. But I was trying to think and I just was crying. I remember that I was just crying when I was coming out, and saying, why was that so scary as a kid? It was just that idea of that there are things that like would take glee in frightening you. I think that's what hit me at that level, where it was a first time experiencing sort of like this deliberate, like, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to be nice to you.
That's awesome.
But maybe I think since then I loved it.
But
anyway, great.
It actually, that's a good one for today, considering that I think the Insidious movie is really relying heavily on the classic jump scare.
Shock boo.
Yeah. Loud noise. Thing jumps out and,
Yep.
For 3 frames.
God, that was, I guess, this movie in a nutshell. So should we get into it then?
People who need help with matters that can't be explained come to me. These hauntings can be terrifying things. I should know. I've faced many evils in my life. This one was different, though. The haunted house.
Yeah, so let's do a summary.
Okay.
Should I do it? No, you should do it.
Okay. I didn't write one out, and I'm horrible at summaries.
Oh, okay. I'll do it then.
It was. I'll try.
We'll tag team it.
So, what's her name?
Oh my God, Elise.
Elise, I think was her name. she's a gifted, since a child, medium, and she is forced to face her childhood demons, both literal and metaphorical, when she gets her most personal case yet and must return to her childhood home for a poltergeist exorcism, whatever you call it, a ghost ridding.
Yeah, a cleaning.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I guess we could also say that in terms of the framework of the Insidious movies, let's see if I can get this right. Number 1, Insidious 1, is after this one.
Yep.
Insidious 2 is after Insidious 1, chronologically. Insidious 3 is before the last key. So that chronologically is the first one. And this kind of spans the gap between 3 and 1.
And starts as far back as
her
childhood, which I guess was in the 50s during...
Right.
It was very obvious that was the atomic bomb scare time, because all that was on TV then was Duck and Cover.
Yeah, her dad is... That's all he watches, apparently.
Placed, just like... Yeah, exactly. Drunk dad. Okay, well, how about things that worked for us?
What worked for you? What worked for you? It worked like a charm. Smith. What worked? What worked for you?
Oh boy. I have to admit, I guess I can call this a thing that worked. And I'm a little ashamed to admit this. The jump scares actually startled me.
Well, the Mann's Chinese theater is notoriously loud.
That's true. Maybe that's all it was. It was, the jump scares. This is I think a fairly commonly held opinion. The type of jump scare that exists now, I think, is really, really cheap. It's essentially a loud noise. That's basically all it is. Now, having said that, this movie actually does it makes an effort later in the movie to play with the jump scare and with the audience's anticipation of that. So I appreciate that, but they hammer it in the first act. There are 3 pretty quick in a row jump scares that are all formulaic, like the same thing. You think they're going to find something in one spot, it's not there, and then the jump scare comes around the corner.
I wonder if that's
supposed
to be the equivalent of like the first drop on a roller coaster, where it's just like people go who are the Insidious fans and are like, just want it fast and now.
Yeah, and I think it's also priming the pump, right? Like, it's psychologically getting you in this mindset of jump scares are a thing that's going to happen in this. And I think in other movies, usually what happens is they don't then change the formula after they've set it up.
Yeah.
They just keep doing that, and by the end of the movie, you are totally desensitized from the jump scare, or your kind of adrenaline from the initial jump scares has waned down, so things aren't actually that scary in the rest of the movie.
I wonder if those initial jump scares are more supposed to be like, these aren't the scary ones. These are supposed to give you anticipation, like you said, priming the pump, anticipation for the ones that hopefully will be more out of nowhere. A jump.
Yeah. And as we go through the movie, I'll get to, I think the one scene that really deliberately tries to get you ready for a jump scare and goes a little too long. Not too long, but they extend it out, and then when the jump scare actually happens, you've kind of let your guard down, and it was okay. I mean, you knew it was coming, but it was okay.
I actually have a good amount of things that worked for me. So
Can I just say I did not like this movie?
Yeah. Oh yeah, actually, we wanted to start with saying no. Should we?
Yeah. Let's say now.
We have a rating system we want to try out, and we meant to do it right after the summary.
That's right.
And can you go over the rating system as quickly as we can?
So here we go. It's essentially 4 things, but I think predominantly it will always only be 3. So the first thing is the highest praise would be I would buy this movie.
5-star
meaning
movies.
not rent buy, meaning you would buy a hard copy of this, or I guess a digital copy, but you would buy it to own.
I love it enough to own it. Yeah.
The second tier would be I'd pay to rent it, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
That's pretty, it's good. You're willing to fork over $4 or whatever it is.
I rent stuff on iTunes.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next one of like it's not great is just stream it. Mm-hmm. Stream it for free.
Maybe you'll like it. Maybe it's worth watching. It has some moments, or this actor or whatever.
And as we've talked about before too, we're not really inclined to ever say don't see a thing. So that would be the fourth one, I guess. But like there's always I don't want to tell people not to see a thing.
Right. But this is maybe where it's more. I mean, these are pretty subjective, personal ratings. So it's like for us, I would not have wanted. If someone could have warned me, I would want to, them to say avoid this.
Can't get that time back.
What you were saying though, Tim, is like for horror movies though, I don't know. There is something to going to the bottom of the barrel or whatever.
Right.
Like
bad can be good.
Because I want to get into for this, things that worked for me might be enough for you to want to see this.
Totally.
So I'll say first thing that worked for. Oh no! So what did we give this one?
Oof. I'm gonna have to say. I guess I'm gonna have to say stream it. I'm not gonna go so far as to be like don't watch it or you can't get that time back. I feel a little bit like I can't get that time back, but I think there is some value in this movie, and I didn't hate it. It's not for me.
Yeah. God, I guess I wanted to say avoid it. But,
wow.
But now
between the two of us of who I thought would say that.
Right. But you saying that makes me want to say stream it. It's just that it's okay. Here we'll get to this by the end, but I want to say avoid it more out of protest, like
that's fair.
Certain sort of filmmaking.
Yep.
Which I guess if you aren't supporting it money wise, I'll just say stream it. So that's my official thing. Okay, because things that worked for me, the story. I thought just in like a horror yarn way, it was really cool, first of all, to have a lead that was an older woman.
Yes.
And then, as I said in the summary, dealing with her demons from her childhood, and then versus essentially someone who's like we get is a sort of adept at this. Mm-hmm. And this is them versus a key-themed demon that traps souls. I thought that was super cool as a story. Like, I liked that, and I would have loved it if it had been done better or like was in another thing. But I mean, as far as those elements, those existed in it, and I liked those in itself.
Yeah, man.
And then just because this is sort of attached to it real quick, something that worked is the key demon like itself. I thought it looked really cool. It was a neat creature design. I liked it. Like, I didn't see any of the trailers, which I watched afterwards. So like using its key fingers to like steal away your throat as Little Mermaid as it was, I thought it was neat. And then I liked that it had this realm that was just sort of this endless thing of cells with the souls trapped in them. I thought all that was cool.
Yeah, I agree. I guess you just made me think of something, and now I've lost it. There's another thing that I kind of appreciate about this movie that I suppose I'll put into the like things I liked. It was that if you've seen the previous Insidious movies, one of my big complaints about the design of them, and in particular, is the design of the spirits. It's incredibly theatrical, right? Like it's like, really, really. I don't know how you even explain this. The makeup is it doesn't look it's not based in reality, right?
Yeah,
like it's not
makeup.
Like it is makeup. It's like really, really extreme lipstick and eyeshadow, on like the female ghosts with like white paint faces, and I don't. It completely takes me out. This one didn't do that.
it was a full creature versus just makeup. Yeah.
And even the other spirits, I think there's only a couple. There's a woman who sort of helps lead Elise around. Like, she's not constructed or visually constructed in that same sort of over-the-top, almost clownish way that the previous movies have done. And so I was glad that was the case. It didn't really help or hinder anything. It just, I just personally really don't like the other version from the other three movies.
Well, what about this one? We're talking about things that worked for you, so yeah. This one.
So that counts.
Yeah.
I mean, it counts that at least they didn't do that, so I was glad.
Yeah.
I like things that are more kind of rooted in some semblance of reality. And I get it. It's with the other movies, it's their take on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They made a design choice. That's fine. But it just doesn't work for me. So in this one, I was glad that I got something that worked.
Yeah.
Which was surprising.
Monsters in a horror movie.
Yeah.
I liked the drunk guy who is currently living at the place.
Yeah.
Who then betrays them.
Yeah. You like the characterization?
The characterization. Okay. He was the one like character that seemed to fit in this weird non-reality that this film takes place in. Which I'll get to.
Oh man.
As far as just how it's not the real life world that we live in is how people act. But he just seemed like he just sort of was hamming it up
he really was.
The right way. And I wish he was in it more.
Yeah.
But he had a fun intro. How you were saying you liked the jump scares. I liked not the jump part of them, but like the gimmicky part of them. I think that's what this filmmaker is actually good at, in the sense of like just what are fun gimmicks you can do. So just like there's the silhouette of the person walking up behind her, and as soon as she spins around, it's like immediately a coat rack. To see that all in camera, I thought was cool. And then I loved when she crawls into when she's like crawling into not the crawl space, but like the vent area, and finds the old luggage, and she's going through them one by one. Yeah. And it's like, something's coming. Yep. And then the demon like bursts out of the luggage when she opens it, like on time number 3 opening the luggage. It was just a cool looking demon. It wasn't necessarily a jump moment for me, but it was like a neat gimmick. Again, it coming out of the luggage to scare us.
But that to me was the moment that they really belabored the anticipation of a jump scare, because what they're doing is sort of a very standard jump scare setup, which is you have some object that opens or closes or whatever that obscures the frame, right? So when you open the suitcase, you cannot see what's behind it. And more than likely when she closes the suitcase, there's going to be a thing behind it and scare you. Yeah. They do that at least 3 times, and there's nothing behind it. And she keeps like raising the flashlight, going like she even knows.
She's looking for it. Yeah. She's like, I've done this before. And something's going to jump out at me.
And they defy that setup by having the thing come out of the suitcase, which I do appreciate that they've made an effort to go, we're going to subvert this trope just a little bit and try to keep you off guard.
Right.
That's good.
Gimmick. And the tension was even starting from like when they were first discovering the vent area and like reaching through the fan, and it was like, is the fan going to turn on? But
he even I don't know if this is a mistake or purposeful or just happy accident or whatever, but when he puts his arm through it, he brushes the fan. And it starts to move, right? Like it moves just a little bit, and you're thinking, I know his hand's coming off, and it doesn't. And it's like, okay, cool, great, good, thanks for not doing that thing that's super obvious.
Right. Which at the same time, though, it seemed like that one was like where they felt like, oh, we know, or it just felt a little too like not actually smart.
Yeah, they're pointing at it.
Yeah. Like, okay, it's not going to happen. Great. But I was more making the point how they were just starting the tension from the get-go.
Yeah.
In that scene. Other individual things that worked for you in this, or?
The actor's name, what is his name? The brother, Elise's brother as an adult. His name is Bruce Davidson.
Oh, yeah.
He has really two scenes, essentially. And in the first scene, his introduction scene, when he sort of sees Elise and she says, you know, like he recognizes her as his sister, his performance is incredibly good. It almost doesn't fit in this movie.
Yeah, if only he didn't speak the dialogue, it would have worked.
I mean, yeah, exactly. He showed up and did his work.
Yeah.
For sure. And I really, really, like, appreciate that, just that amount of dedication to being an actor. Like, it's awesome to see. Anyone could have entered this movie being like, yeah, it's an Insidious movie, I'm gonna do my thing and, you know, get a paycheck and walk away. And you know, I like it when an actor really says, no, I'm gonna show you what I got.
We're both wearing hats, so we'll tip our hats to Bruce.
Yeah, for
Which,
sure.
you know what? I'll just say off of that, this was more something I was saving for things of note, but the main actor, Lin Shaye, you know, he really does carry all these movies, and as I was sort of reading fan reviews and reviews of it, and I'd agree with them that she is the heart of the Insidious films. Doubt. And it's like, God, as soon as she says the dialogue, I wish it was something different, but like her giving it her all, and she has a fun stage presence, I guess. She
really does. And there's, unfortunately, because of, you know, I think you're right, part of it is the writing. It's a very slippery slope with this type of movie, that when you are really putting some gusto into your acting and showing up and like trying to dig deep to sort of give a performance, with not great writing, it slips dangerously close to melodrama. And there were moments when I was like, okay, we get it. This is an important moment, but is it that big of a moment? You know what I mean? Like, would a real person in this situation really be like on the verge of tears this much, you know, in this movie, in this situation? And so in two ways, you know, I'm commending the actors for going there and doing their work, but it tonally maybe not exactly the thing that works for this structure or this type of construct, I guess.
I'm excited to get to that for things that didn't work.
Oh, okay, cool.
Another quick thing I liked, just this didn't really become a story, this didn't really become too much of a thing, but I do like it in horror movies or supernatural movies when Western medicine is incredulous or unhelpful in the face of the paranormal or supernatural. So that came when, like, you remember the daughter or her niece gets taken to the hospital,
right, yeah.
and just, save her, do something, but it just is futile because she's actually in the spirit realm.
That's right.
So I like that, and that sort of brings me into, I also really liked, maybe this is part of, I said I like this story, the whole concept of astral projection and spirit realms, and I just thought that was cool seeing in a horror film as I guess as, I wanted to say as unrealistic,
right?
As it may be. I think they're fascinating concepts, and it was neat to see just sort of done as a device.
Yeah. No, I dig that. I there was one other thing that I sort of on the tail of appreciating the actors. I really thought the casting was quite good. I'll get to some casting that I thought was not good when we do that, things we didn't like. But I thought the young Elise, there's two versions of her. There's sort of like a maybe 10, 12-ish year old.
Yeah.
And then a 16-year-old. Both of those were good. And I, as we said, obviously Elise is a good actress. The dad, good. The guy who owns the house, good. Casting wise, I like all of those. So that, good job casting department.
Right. Yeah, the casting, I don't know if this is actually like something that worked for me, because it's sort of like, what do you say, a non-existent or negative, I don't know. Anyway, I was glad that the actor who is was in the other Insidious movies and the Conjuring movies, Patrick Wilson, I was really happy he wasn't in this.
I think it's funny that you don't like him.
Yeah, well, what made me... Okay, so like what you're saying about it's like the actors are cast well, but like, I don't know, and they're sort of like, they do a good... I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like I'm always cringing watching the actors in the movies having to do this stuff, but like all the other actors, I could see them doing a good job like in a better version of this movie kind of thing.
Oh yeah, totally.
And like they also bring like whatever semblance of humanity exists in these characters, they bring it to them.
Yeah.
So this is more just trying to commend the casting in this one and Lin Shaye again. But for whatever Patrick Wilson, he just makes like the problems just as glaring as possible. Like I think I'm highly aware of it because I like pay attention to these things that we're going to complain about, which we haven't been able to resist, but we're going to get into even more. But for whatever reason, it's just like the writing's on the wall. And I was happy I was able to actually, I think, get into it more than I did The Conjuring 2, which is the only, like, I've seen the first Insidious and in Conjuring 2, as far as this universe or this filmmaker's whatever.
So you're Patrick Wilson'd out.
Yeah, and I was just so, like, I was actually, like, mad, like, watching it with him, because I'm like, it's so obvious how bad this movie is, but it's like, these other actors, as you said, something about the casting, it works in its own weird way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for this movie, for me, trying to squeeze something that I liked out of it is a challenge. But I'm trying to be nice.
Okay, well,
because I'm about to be fairly.
So nothing
nice.
left for you enjoyed about it. I only had one little thing.
No.
Again, I think this is something that would have been better served in a better movie. But I really liked by the end just presenting the idea that the father, who's like set up, he's a horrible, abusive man, but that the father he's a victim to his own demons versus an inherently bad person.
Right.
Like we see like his good soul or whatever that's been trapped away.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, even though like we're immediately like, oh, this guy, we want to kill him. He's a bad person. Like, look at all these horrible things he's doing.
Yeah.
It brings us that empathy towards him in that way of like, oh, he's actually a victim to this literal demon.
Right.
But I think if we were able to have that same attitude towards people and their non-literal demons, then the world would be a better place. And Insidious, The Last Key, presented that idea in a way I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I can get behind it. I think it's, not necessary, but it's a good example of sort of taking a D story or C story or whatever and tying it up.
Right. I don't think this was intentional. I'm just like, I picked up on it and I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right. How about things that didn't work for us?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
God. I was saying when we left the theater, I was like, God, I wish I had the script, because there's so much that I didn't like, and I want to be able to say all of it, but it's probably better that I don't like have that, because I would go on and on and on. I could easily spend 2 or 3 hours talking about why.
Well, I actually have less. Only a few less in as far as notes, things that didn't work for me, because I felt like everything you're getting at, like those are specific moments. When we can talk about things that overarching don't work, like why. Yeah. Unifyingly, those moments that you're talking about don't work.
Yeah.
So like all these things, I may have sounded like I actually liked this movie based off of the things I liked section, but I will say that I guess the first thing that didn't work for me is I wish that the movie actually was good and well done, and that it did all those things I liked justice. Because like all those things I like were really in that the micro scale, like liking them unto themselves. But it was so hard to actually to like really get into them and appreciate them as intended when the whole thing that's holding it, the film and the filmmaking, is just bad and not well done. But why is that? Why was it bad and not well done?
Well, I think it's primarily bad because you have a construct that has been established by the previous movies that they are beholden to some degree. And I think they know they have a target audience, and so they're trying to play to that.
Well, I think there's a certain thing to like being safe with what's worked before, but you could have made this movie with good dialogue, and those people wouldn't have cared or known the difference.
That was going to be my end point of that. I think the writer I feel bad being like, you suck, but he does things in this movie that just make my head spin.
That's why you don't have to say he sucks. These are just things that didn't work for us.
Yeah. I also, the fact that he's in it, right? He plays the character Specs.
Oh, so he gave himself the kiss with the girl at the end?
Yeah. And that don't get me, I mean, I'm going to go down a long path if I'm not careful with this. His name's Leigh Whannell. He's probably a lovely human being. I don't know.
But he was the Michael Bay, I think, of horror films, in that, like, nobody speaks like a person at any point.
Right.
And it just feels like it's this sort of, like, I don't know, where it feels like everything's written by an 8-year-old boy with no imagination. I don't want to be mean to 8-year-old boys
I find
everywhere.
it to be incredibly self-indulgent, too.
Yeah.
In the worst type of way. Like, look how funny I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, like, we're officially in things that didn't work.
Yeah.
The humor did not work for me. It is not funny. Actually, it's fucking offensive.
Yeah.
There is a shitload of bullshit, sexist, just awful sexist shit that, I'm sorry, but know what fucking era you're in. It's this movie was made in 2017 in the, the time of a movement to say, hey, we've had enough of bullshit sexism. And this just leans so hard in the other direction, and it's so colorblind. It's just amazing to me that you have two characters who are obviously, so her sidekicks are obviously in their, I'd say 30s, maybe?
Late
30s? Yeah. And they're gross. They're fucking gross
Every single
characters.
scene with them and the young women were just, like, cringeworthy.
I mean, they've got these mid-30s dudes who are, like, drooling over the two nieces who are maybe 20. Maybe. Like, why they're still living in this small town.
You see why I compare it to Michael Bay, too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, dude, that kind of, we kind of were okay with it 10 years ago, and like with the first Transformers, or however long ago that was, but it's not fucking okay anymore.
I don't think it ever was okay.
Well, I mean, it was not.
How glaringly obvious it was in the greater context of the world.
And it made me fucking angry, like that you could be that blind to something so obvious now.
So, okay, well, specific moments, like the kiss at the end, when he kisses her, it was like nothing about their interaction made it seem like that was something that could or should happen.
Yeah.
It just felt like it's completely uncalled for.
It's
assault.
Just gross. And the other character who's, I don't even know, the guy with the long hair who's awful, he's constantly commenting on it. He's like, oh, so he gets to be with the most beautiful girl in the world, and I have to like go down to the basement.
Objects
like,
to be won.
Fucking A. Like, just stop with that shit. Like, put some fucking thought into your characterization, and don't make them the most gross, sexist, shitty characters ever. Especially if you're gonna play one of them. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The world now knows that you're gross. Like, what the hell?
Well,
Rant
if
over.
anyone actually sees this movie, we'll see if we get an Insidious 5.
It just kills me. It really kills me.
Right. Well, it's like, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's more about like, I thought, like, how these people interact, both in that sense of, how the two sexes interact with each other, those characters.
Yeah.
And just like their motivations from scene to scene. It's a small step away from the universe that Tommy Wiseau lives in, you know? Like where it's just like, wait, what, people talk in this way where it's just sort of this deliberate, like saying what is happening.
Talking the plot.
What I tried to get down, some examples. Like at the beginning, she says she gets the phone call and is immediately like, I'll never take this case. And then with no deliberation in the next scene, she's telling the boys, those two guys, about the case, and then goes, which is why I have to do this. But you can't come.
And then they show up.
Yeah, and then immediately the next scene, all they have to do is drive up and be excited about going. And she's like, oh, you too.
By the way, in no universe can you buy a Winnebago like that for $700. They're like, oh, we got it for $700. No, you didn't.
I was wondering if they just spent that much fixing it, like getting... No, they actually...
No, they say they bought it, and they're like, well, but 200 of it.
Well, this took place back in 2010, Tim.
Holy shit. You have completely justified their argument.
So, like... So with all those things, we're from scene to scene, where it's like, no, I'll never go. Yeah, sure, I'm going. There's no actual, like, connection with her.
Right.
Those motivations. So why not just have her accept the case and never tell them not to join? Why not just have her be like, sure, I'll take the case, and then just not even be spoken, and the guys come with her? Why all these, like, fake, like, working against non-conflicts?
Yeah, I mean, you could even just have her go, oh my God, this is really heavy. And, like, get to see her contemplate it. Just have her contemplate. Watch her be unsure about a thing. That's enough. I'm putting my foot down and not making this, or not going with this, but then I am, is actually cheaper. It's not how people work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of just, it's like, it's offensive in a way of like, do a little more, like put a little more effort into how you construct a scene and how you construct a character's turmoil. Because there is no turmoil if she goes, no, okay, fine. Like, who gives a shit?
Right. It's like we're supposed to forget immediately, and I guess people who like these...
I mean, I think another kind of, in a similar vein, example of this is when Spax kills... straight murder.
Oh, yeah.
He straight murders the guy who owns the house now. Because the guy who owns the house, they discover that he's been keeping captive a woman in his basement, right? And then he goes running around in the house after Specs with a gun, right? Well, Specs disarms him.
Right, it's all safe.
Hits him in the back of the head, knocks him out cold, on the floor, gun flies across the floor, doesn't have a weapon anymore, and then drops a fucking bureau on his head and kills him. It's not even a justifiable killing. It is straight up, I murdered a defenseless, unconscious
human being. Do you remember the
being.
other people in the theater were actually, like, had that same reaction with, like, what? Which I actually should have mentioned that moment as something... it's not something that worked for me. It's something I liked. It's something I enjoyed. Because it was so ridiculous and out of nowhere. It was, if the whole movie was actually on that level versus this awkward middle ground of just, like, thinking it's good but not actually being good, if it actually was just consistently god-awful, like, you know, you're slapping your head against your forehead, then I may have actually said rent it, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, fuck. This movie hurt me. It actually hurt me.
So when were other moments you were feeling physical pain and discomfort watching it?
Oh, fuck. Oh my God. I don't even know. Where and what in the world was the place that little Elise, and then further in the movie they end up down in this sort of basement, but it's not a basement. Like, it's, I guess, an extension of the prison that's next door that connects to this house.
Oh, that was.
But it's in the house.
No, that was metaphysical because it was beyond the red door.
No. The red door is in the basement.
Yeah.
Right? But that basement.
Right.
On the reality side of the red door.
Yeah.
That's not a basement. That's like a it's got like storage for the prison stuff and like
Oh,
a weird
right.
generator.
How does
and
this
there's
house actually connect to the prison?
Exactly, and there's no like the doorway is very odd.
That actually
gets
was
down
never
there.
clear because they sort of made it seem as if this place was like part of a prison, but it wasn't actually. It was just a house.
Also, there is no payoff to the house being next to a prison.
Yeah.
What is the payoff of that?
Something about that.
There's a lot of spirits there.
There's Yeah, no, that's what I got was
But
that there's lots
still,
of spirits there.
There's no continuation of that thought.
Yeah.
Other than the red door leads to a really long hallway that presumably resembles a cell block in a prison.
Right.
But that's
They're just
not reality.
connected
That's
ideas.
Yeah, it's just loose and not fulfilled in any way. And
It's
I'm
not
just like,
that-
what? Where are we? What's going on? Then there's too many doors. By the way, I get it. There's keys and there's doors in this movie. I get it. But they are haphazardly thrown around, right? There's the door that's to the place where the captives are chained up. There's the door that's not really a door because there's like slats of wood that the dad locks the little girl in.
Mm-hmm.
But then the mom gets down there somehow without going through that door, so she's apparently not locked in unless she found a key, but we never see that. There's like the red door, which kind of pays off, I guess, only in its symbolism that it's a gateway. It's just there's too many doors. I don't know.
It at least delivered on the title. The last key. You need
What is
doors
the last
to put
key?
keys in.
I guess so. The
was
last key is the pinky finger.
The
I
last
don't
key
know.
to the puzzle.
Oh God!
I don't
What
think-
puzzle? There is no puzzle.
Right. Well, it was figuring out everything we figured out in it.
What the fuck did we figure out in it? That this movie exists before the first two?
That these
And
souls
after the
were
third?
being trapped by a key demon.
But we don't even get to find out what the significance of the key demon is. You know, like in a lot of movies that deal with demons, they have the one scene that they're sort of like, you're possessed, right? You're possessed by by an entity, and you're exhibiting these characteristics. Let's open up, this book about demons or whatever, and identify what it is so that we can fight it. Mm-hmm. And it's I don't know the names of them, whatever.
We haven't mentioned the whistle.
Oh God, that's true. But it's so surface level. That's my problem with it, is that it's like there's no fucking thought beyond just being like, oh yeah, this will be cool, and then this, and then this.
That's probably the best way to describe what I think of like the majority of these Blumhouse films I've seen. Surface level.
Yeah.
Go below the surface a bit. That's what movies are meant
Just
to
a
do.
little.
That's why they exist.
Write one more draft.
Yeah.
Just one more.
Ask all these questions before we do,
Here's
and
the
then
thing.
answer them.
When you're writing a thing, the second you go, yeah, that's it. I'm done. That's good enough. If you say that's good enough, you better fucking write another
Right.
draft.
Good enough is never.
Oh my God.
There's no such thing as good enough. It's like put in, yeah. Especially, that's why I said the first feeling I get when the credits come up is just how much, and you see the names come up, is how much money these people made, which is then an indication of how much money went into these movies. So it's like, why not just spend that extra time on the script?
I guess it's just, there's obviously inner workings to this, right? Like when
it's what we
the
talked about,
studio
'cause,
wants to release it
yeah.
and like the time frame and stuff like that. I get it, but
you're right. It's because they will still make money.
Yeah.
They just don't even risk, like, oh, maybe these bringing in. Because I think, Leigh Whannell, as terrible as he is as a person, I guess is what we were saying. If that's
I don't know.
Views on how
he's
misguided. Sorry.
Yeah, he's missing the
and
point.
This is against
Or a
my
point.
own philosophy. I didn't mean to go back on. No one's inherently a bad person. They are just a victim in some sense to their own demons.
And
Lee Wilson
actually,
is fact.
for
But-
all we know, none of the cringy things in this movie that we're bitching about were Leigh Whannell's.
Whannell, I guess, had Wilson.
Right.
I was combining him with Patrick Wilson. who
Yeah,
I didn't like.
there's a chance that this, there's some producer or studio exec or whatever who's like, yeah, but like, let's make sure that we get this in there. That's possible.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Well, I was just going to say, you can see, though, like where I mentioned, their strengths as far as those fun gimmick things were probably him. So just to have someone why not combine him and have him work with someone, whose show's actually bringing something below the surface, looking at things below the surface.
Now, to be fair, Leigh Whannell didn't direct this. Adam Robitel did. So, obviously, but he still went along with it.
These are all right, but these are all like this. These are the same as the other. What's the guy who started all this franchise?
Jason Blum?
No.
Yeah. I don't remember.
It's interchangeable with his directing.
Because the original ones were James Wan.
That was the name I was looking for. James Wan.
I think was he the original director of the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's the one that's like sort of the name that's attached to.
He's like an
universe.
exec producer.
But for me, it's like when I've seen the first Insidious and Conjuring 2, which I believe he directed both of. And like this different director, it didn't bring anything different to it, No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're probably right.
I don't know. It didn't. Yeah. Okay.
He said, I don't want clown makeup.
Right.
So good job,
I guess. Or that just happened somehow.
I don't even know what the key hand thing. It sort of feels to me like somebody just saw a design. Like they went to a gallery and saw, some artist's design, a piece of art with a hand that had keys on the end of it. Yeah. And they're like, that's,
and
cool.
Then you said they stopped there after saying,
yeah,
cool.
They stopped there. Like, we don't know why, other than this key demon wants to imprison people's souls. There's also this sort of line of like, I want to open all the doors. Yeah. Which I think is an attempt to connect the movies, right? Because at a couple points when they're in the further, they are trying to get out and they come upon doors and they open them and they're references to moments in the other movies sort of being like, hey, check it out. Like, remember that time in Insidious 2 when Dalton, sees a door open on its own? This is what was happening on the other side of the door. Who gives a shit?
I'm sorry. Yeah, and you just talking about that was your point exactly. I just lost you. I don't care about these details or anything.
Like,
which
just
I think
because you were like, see, it means nothing.
Tim, I don't want to give this movie any more time. We're just kind of going in circles here.
Yeah, I agree.
We didn't like it.
Things of note?
It's a bad movie. Yes. Things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
I think it's... I like how it's... Or, it was noteworthy. I won't say I liked that it is a fourth one. I think that's when things become like, okay, how are they continuing to just expand this universe? It's interesting and noteworthy when a horror franchise becomes a franchise and having a fourth one to it.
Yeah.
I thought I was looking at YouTube when I was watched the trailer, and I sent you those screen grabs where it was like this wasn't in the movie at all. That was interesting.
Yeah, what's that about?
But I was looking at the comments, and like people said, fourth one sucked. And my response, I was like, how? So the first three were good? Like, everything that was terrible about this one, like, it's like the same as all these. So that was interesting to me. That was noteworthy that somehow someone who liked the previous Insidiouses did not like this one. I would be really, really curious. Yeah. If you're one of these people, please let me know why this one didn't work for you and the others did.
I mean, on the flip side, I leading up to this, I heard a couple reviews and read a couple being like, this one's actually good and scary. I'm like, well, that's cool that you thought so. Yeah. But when you have that kind of extreme polar opposites of reviews, I think it sort of says something, right? It says that something's not working. You know. So
another thing that got me thinking, I thought was interesting, was like that question of why do I enjoy like the Friday the 13th series or like other movies that are like, you know, quote unquote bad films, but not these films.
I have an opinion about that.
Yeah.
I think that those films had underlying thematic things going on in them that were in relation to the time they were made, that like actually spoke to something a little bit broader and sort of significant than this does. This movie is disconnected from our current time and reality.
I don't think those films though had any that was intentional though, if that's true.
That could be true.
I
and
think,
it just happened to work.
But then also, like, I think it's, well, what those, like, a slasher film, those are true to the time because what's fun is the characters that get killed off, they're always just these stereotypes of, like, well, you know, teenagers, young people are sort of emblematic of the times and what the latest things are. Right. So that's consistent because, I mean, I liked the 2009 Friday the 13th. And, you know, all the originals. And it's because you had 2009 people getting, you know, stereotypes, not people getting killed off.
Yeah.
And that there's...
But even that construct.
Yeah, I think it was just the construct.
We know it works.
Right.
This construct just, it was
floating around like in this, nowhere. The people are not people. They don't talk like people. They don't interact like people. But it's still, I mean, maybe it's just the simplicity of, like, the formula of just the kills... You know, and it's it's rated R movie, so it just has that.
Wait, this was rated R?
No. Oh. Those movies are.
Oh, yeah.
This was, that's what I'm saying. Maybe those work because they're R rated, and it's just sort of like about the gore and about the novelty of the kills and like how are they gonna, you know, how is Jason gonna kill him? When this, it's more sort of all down to, you know, the gimmicks of the creature designs, but it's like still
and there really
that.
Aren't any kills except for the straight up murder.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's like. But this still has Insidious movies, Insidious 4. It still has its things that are unique to it. Like I was saying, I was commending the creature design. Yeah. So like, and liking the story, but like, still, why wasn't working? I also thought maybe it's like in these, it feels like the movie thinks it's good because it actually has sort of this heavy content in it of like a child abuser, wife abuser, you know, drunk parent. So it's as if it's like, oh, this is as serious as it's like puts itself on the same level of The Shining or something like that.
But in a way,
in its drama,
I could even get on board with being mad about the concession of, oh, well, he wasn't really an abusive dad because he was possessed by this thing. It sort of undercuts the fact that you're addressing a pretty serious and, like, for lack of a better word, insidious thing that exists in our world. And being like, yeah, but in this case, he's really not that
But,
bad
I mean,
guy.
from the get-go...
That's cutting it off at the knees.
But it's still those really heavy, ideas and themes where I feel like the movie is just sort of does... It's just almost... I don't want to say as far as like insulting, but it's just more like it's not respectful somehow. Right. Of this. When to have a movie that's fully Friday the 13th is just kids getting killed off. Right. It's that simple. And I guess though, but you have like, you could say bullying. You know, that's the inception of the Jason character. So maybe those are serious things, but that's still done in this like, it's done more in the slasher films. Like it's this is a what are they called?
Like an allegory?
No, you know, like a story that goes around in real life that may or may not be true.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
A legend?
Yeah.
What are those called? Yeah, the legends in the evil, scary sense.
Like an urban legend.
Yeah, like, exactly. Like, it's that sort of that sense of having that about it, which this one...
It's almost cautionary tale-ish, and, you know, like, there's nothing like that in this.
Yeah.
So...
Right.
I don't know what the thread to connect to this could be. Even in a broad way.
Yeah.
Like, face your past?
Face your demons.
Okay.
Well,
your
I hope
I have one thing of note. this is a shout out to a friend of mine who's in this movie. She was a stunt performer. She was the stunt performer for what's the character's name? One of the nieces, Imogen.
Imogen.
Right. Her name's Amanda Hall. She was a stunt person in this, and good job. I don't know which stunt was yours. I think it's when you got thrown up against the wall.
That's cool. That is noteworthy. We should get some
good for you.
behind-the-scenes tidbits that we
right.
We'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm sure I could find she's probably posted some stuff of working on it. So cool.
Well,
Congratulations.
Tip
good
our
job.
hats to you too.
Good job,
Amanda. Great. And I think last time when we were seeing this movie, we got excited about, we were sort of like going down a list of horror movies and thinking what to watch next.
That's right.
So, yeah, and part of the spirit of this podcast, if you can tell, since we weren't really haven't really been talking in such a way like trying to catch you up too much with the specifics of the story. So really, I think we're going for like, we're hoping you can view the film and then just sort of, sit in the room with us to talk about it as if it were.
Yeah. And definitely if we get, once that we're out there and, we want to be engaging like actually with you, not just as you're the listener. So like when using Twitter or whatever, we'll be communicating. So
right. So
we'd love to hear from people and talk about it.
So I don't know what our timeline is yet of the releases, if they're going to be out, whatever. But anyway, the next one we want to watch, what was it called?
I'm pretty sure it's called The Asylum. It's a, I believe, 1971 British film.
An anthology.
And it's anthology, yeah.
Right. We were looking at non-Hammer
exactly. It sort of
films.
was considered kind of a answer or a competitor, I guess, to the Hammer films. So we're going to check that out. It looks pretty interesting and was on a list of horror films. A lot of these lists that I pull up as like great horror films are they're a little obvious.
Yeah.
And this one actually had quite a few movies that I was like, oh shit, they put like Evil Dead 1 and a little wind here. They put Evil Dead 1 and 2 as number 7 of 50, and I'm like, thank you, because it is awesome. And they put The Fly in the top 15. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, cool. They have a similar sensibility as.
What was this list?
Me.
In case anyone's wondering,
I don't know.
Wasn't
I have to find it.
Were you just looking at Rotten Tomatoes?
That was the first one I looked at, and that one was a little too typical. Okay. This one I'll find it and I'll throw it up on Twitter or something. But yeah, if you want to find us, I'm at Tim Aslin on Twitter. So ASLIN.
I have a Twitter, that's my name, at Ryan McDuffie, and a Instagram, that's at Mayor McDuffie. But you can get to both of those and see my work at my website, ryanmcduffie.com.
And to clarify, that's mayor like the mayor of a city.
Yes.
Not a mare, a female horse.
Correct.
Cool. We don't want to misguide you. So.
All right. Well, we'll keep it real, keep it scary.
Yeah,
and if we learned anything from Insidious, it's remember everyone has their demons.
That's true. And yeah, if you get a chance to check out The Asylum before we release that episode, get on it.
All right.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Cool. All right, Tim. It's been fun.
Yeah, buddy.
Bye.
See ya.
Ah!